Hey guys, recently I had the chance to sit down with Maj Toure from Black Guns Matter and Savannah Lindquist from the Ladies of Liberty Alliance to talk about gun rights for marginalized communities. I hope you enjoy our conversation. So, to start things off, Maj, why don't you tell us how you became an activist for gun rights?
Well, one, going into the 2016 elections, when it's an election, especially a federal one, it's like superstar status. Everybody's talking about, voters registration. So me and my friends were like, yo, voters registration drive, we need a license to carry drive. And so, it was a joke, ha, 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 ha. And then after a while, we're like, no, this is actually a thing. So we did an event in Philly, and way too many people came. And they were from different places. Some people were from Jersey, some people from New York. And we just said, okay, we're gonna show people how to exercise their human right to self-defense in a way that won't land them in jail, right? So we did the class, people were informed, and then people were like, yo, we want something like this, in our city, in our borough. And we was like, yo, wouldn't it be crazy if we just went on a tour and just was going around teaching everybody all this stuff, ha, 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 light bulb goes off again. Yo, let's do it. So we started a GoFundMe campaign. Our original goal was like 13 cities, right? 13 colonies, 13 cities. And we had a goal of $25,000. We ran through those 13 cities. We ran through the goal. And then we started getting angry emails. Yo, it's messed up. You didn't come out of town. So then we was like, yo, ha, 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 ha. Why don't we just do this in every state in the country? And it's been snowballing ever since. And and seeing how many people are like labeled felons or created like this scarlet letter on their life, not because they robbed somebody, because they murdered somebody, just because they've been missing information. It's like, yo, we can fix that. That's like solvable. So we just started this thing called Black Guns Matter, because at the time in 2015, Black Lives Matter was all over the media. Well, I'm not really in the business of telling somebody or trying to prove to them that my life matters. I don't care if you think my life matters. I do not care. I know that I have the means to protect my life, and if you try to take it, you're gonna see very well, so much so that my life matters to me. So for us, it was, create something, Black Guns Matter. It's a black firearm. It's not limited to black people, and we've just got so much love and support that it's like, yo, let's just keep going, and that was the start.
Cool. Well, I just want you to know that I do think your life matters.
Oh, well, thank you.
See, I'm from the All Guns Matter camp.
Okay, right.
Savannah, how did you get into activism for gun rights?
Yes, so I grew up with firearms. My pop-up taught me how to shoot a gun when I was in elementary school. And then I left for college. I went to Temple in North Philadelphia, and all was great until my senior year. Unfortunately, I became a victim of sexual violence. I, was a gun owner, but due to various laws, it being a gun-free zone, all the sort of things sort of played into me not having my firearm with me that night. And I was so devastated by the assault, both, personally, professionally, all those sort of things, that when I, finally got to a point where I felt like I was comfortable and I felt like I could speak out, I just felt this need to scream, "I told you so," at the top of my lungs. Because it seems like stories like mine where firearms could have, really helped are not given the same amount of attention as when firearms are used for something bad. So I figured that, someone has to be the one to speak out, so why not me?
Yeah. And how do you go about, persuading people to come over to your side? Obviously, you have a very heartening personal story.
Yes, so it's not easy because a lot of people, when they just think of guns or see a gun, they're scared, which is understandable because it's easy to be scared of things that you don't understand. So I think a lot of what I try to do is just tell people my story and come at it from a human standpoint of like, look, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, or if you hate all my politics, or if you believe in rape culture, or you don't think rape culture exists, all these certain things, just approaching it like a human. And I think being kind goes a long way too.
Yeah. Maj, what about yourself? Like how?
Me, I don't ever try to convince anybody. I believe that if you don't want to have a gun, cool. Like, don't have one. If you know your temperament is as such where you don't have much self-control, I'm glad that you know that about yourself and you don't want one. And the same respect that I'm giving you for your trauma or your nervousness, you know, or your fear of firearms, I want you to give me that same level of respect for my non-nervousness or my confidence, you know, and my respect for firearms and my want to protect against trauma. For me, the argument, for the most part, is just, yo, here go the data. Like, the thing that your government, our government, is telling us is making us safer is actually not. There's bodies attached to these places. What woman are you raping if she could open your face up? Rightfully so. You know, so I just present the data to people and let them make the decision on their own. You can't, it's not how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. It's not, you know, and we could rewind it all the way back to like 1775, going into 1776. Hey, we want you to continue paying taxes for us. Nah, Britain, we good. We don't want to do this no more. They shot them. That's it. Like, there's a value system, and, you know, historically, that's surrounded around freedoms. As an African-American male, we don't get free without firearms. So I just present it. And if you just are like, no, I want to support a racist policy of gun control. I want to support more women not being able to defend themselves.
That is a terrible thing for a politician
Right.
to run on. I am for the racist policy of gun control, and women should never feel safe.
And you're JFK over there for a second.
There was a really good sketch that College Humor did, where it was like, you know, two, you know, sort of stereotypical white, you know, gun guys. They're like, yeah, you know, guns are for everybody, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, like, a black dude pops up. He's like, yeah, I can't wait to get a gun.
That's so
and they're like,
funny.
hold on a second,
wait.
wait a second. You know, because, I mean, you know, for a lot of people, the idea of a black dude carrying a gun is a little scary.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, you know.
Right.
We were talking about Whole Foods, you know. It's like, I don't know, a dude walking around Whole Foods is like, hey, what's going, you know.
Right, what are you doing here?
Yeah, for one, why are you black in Whole Foods?
Right.
And secondly,
Why do you
Right.
gun? Just making sure this is organic.
Right.
Don't lie to me.
Is it certified?
Yeah.
Right. I think that even that, so I can't even go to Whole Foods anymore because they're anti-gun. I just found this out very recently. And I really liked Whole Foods.
oh, so are you boycotting Whole Foods?
Yeah, I
Deny
don't.
yourself
I
Whole
don't.
Foods?
Yeah, I
New
deny
York's still
myself.
going to Chick-fil-A.
Right. I don't go to places that it's a personal discipline. We vote with our dollars, outside of your regular vote, right? I write letters and say, yo, there's an amazing Whole Foods, a new one in Philly. It's amazing. They got a bar in there,
Oh, wow.
wine, just everything. I can't go in there because it's like, yo, you don't. You know, and I believe that everybody should write a letter and just say, hey, man, I really love you guys. You know, however, this value system is a fundamental human right to me. You guys don't want me to have the right that if a weirdo comes in Whole Foods, I want to protect life. I'll find somewhere else until we can readjust this policy.
So is Whole Foods like a no gun zone? Like you can't.
I didn't know
carry?
they took a stand on
So
it.
they'll do this. They'll like say some of them will have signs, some of them won't, but it's on their website, right? The thing is, they'd never know if I was carrying regardless. So it's not because I know so many gun guys and gun women go, I carry anywhere regardless, and I get them on that. But when you're talking about a business to change policy, you have to make a direct stand and say, this is the reason why I would have loved to give you more of my business, but I cannot, and I have to take that to your closest competitor because they respect our right to defend our lives, right? So what they'll do is they can't enforce a statute per se, right? But what they can do is put that little sign out front with the, you know, the Beretta with the like slash through it. And I used to go, well, I don't have a Beretta on me, so that's not for me.
Getting really specific.
Right. But what they can do is if they know, you know, that you're a firearm owner, they can ask you to leave their premises. And if you don't leave within a certain amount of time, they'll call the cops for trespassing, right? So to me, I think that it's fundamental. If this is a right that we say we really want, you know, we got to be very direct about it. And, you know, hey, I like y'all, respectfully. I like you guys. I love the wine bar that you have in Whole Foods. It's amazing. You got really good wine selection for Whole Foods, right? But I can't really do that, you know? So for me, like, all of that's tied in. So we stay out of that stereotype. I don't look like the angry dude that's super upset that happens to be black. You know what I mean? And it's like, nah, we have me and her, even though she's raising her hand.
Oh, yeah. We'll get right to it.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Savannah.
Oh, I was just going to say something that I think might make some people uncomfortable, but one thing we have to consider when it comes down to the whole like, oh, well, it says it's a gun-free zone, but I'm going to carry anyways, is, okay, if you stand Maj and I next to each other, we look very different. I am a 4'9", like, chubby white girl from the South, and he is an African-American man from North Philadelphia.
He's also 4'9".
Yes.
Very tiny man.
Big chair.
Well, being short. There's nothing wrong with being short. So if I have a gun and a cop is like charging me, at least in my mind, I would assume that there's a less likely chance that they would like take me out versus take him out, just by, you turn on the news any day and you see like, another African American being killed by the police. But just a side note.
And we do not want to test this out.
Right.
Okay? I don't want to.
No.
The arming of American citizens and more people understanding the information behind it. Like, we have a commonality. We might look, first, America, I'm not 4'9", but just ego-wise.
Clarify that.
Clarifying that real quick.
There's nothing wrong with
Right,
that.
there's nothing wrong with it.
But I'm not.
The commonality of these freedoms, it's kind of about the gun, but it's not really. It's about our freedom to defend whatever our value systems are, right? So if you have someone like, Savannah, and somebody like me chopping it up in Whole Foods change their policy next week, and we're there, it's like, oh man, we're having wine or, whatever, vegetables, or I'm not eating soy, but whatever, right? And we're doing that, and if somebody comes in, I know that there's someone there that is willing to, step up as a good Samaritan to defend life. I know that a person that's armed and that's responsible and that's safe and that's trained or taking training is more in alignment with defending those lives that are there. And the commonality that we have is that freedom, and we're not really trying to outsource our security to the guy that happens to be at the front of Whole Foods. Like, I don't know him. I don't know what his, those people those sheriffs down in Parkland ran. Mm-hmm. Like, they ran. Like, you had one job. This is why you supposedly trained. And you hid. And you waited. And 17 bodies, souls were, sent back to the Creator. So I think that the commonalities is something that we share as, armed Americans.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you guys have noticed, because, being, activists for gun rights, if it sort of puts you in touch with people who you otherwise would never hang out with. Like, I have that, as being a libertarian in New York, where there are actually some libertarians here, but then I go to New Hampshire, and I'm hanging out with people who make their own soap, and I'm like, I don't make my own soap, So what is that like? Because it seems like there's something there that can kind of transcend race, class, and sex as well.
To me, I can't speak for Savannah, but for me, that's exactly it. It's something that is an understanding of, if I'm armed and you're armed, right? Whatever you do in your confines, I'm gonna respect it, because I know you're armed, right? Whatever I do in my confines, you're gonna respect it because I'm armed. I'll understand and appreciate the difference and go, yeah, that's what he does. He makes soap. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, don't come in and try to take his soap stuff. Like, that's how he feeds his family.
Or get close to him in general, because that soap does not work.
Right. Like,
terrible soap maker.
Right, it's missing certain key components. Or maybe it is, but the thing is, if he's a skater, like, yo, or if she's a skater, or if she's just a college student, like, yo, don't violate her body, don't violate their personal property. Like, it's very simple, and you have to have things that, they say, like, he who is prepared for war, or wants peace must be prepared for war. And it's like, yo, I'm strapped, I'm ready for war, but I prefer peace, bro. Like, yo, let's just be peace about it, And so really, to me, those are some of the things that you find these people that have those different value systems, but they all at the commonality, and you will run into them that it's like, yo, you do what? You're a flamethrower? Yeah, but I have to be armed because some people think this is the tool of the devil, that I'm playing with flames, so I have to be armed. So absolutely.
Have you met a flamethrower?
Yes.
Whoa, in like a circus kind of
No,
thing?
like they the people that'll be like playing with like fire with
they juggling and stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, yo, we got to be armed because some extremely religious people will go, you're playing with like the devils, like it's that deep.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Savannah, what about yourself? Any run-ins with flamethrowers and stuff like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I have nearly the cool kind of story that Maj has, but I would definitely say that, as much as media or whatever might try to present gun owners looking like, you know, all looking the same, we don't. We come from different walks of life, we experience different things. But I think the willingness to be armed, the willingness to go through the training necessary, all that sort of thing to be responsible with a firearm definitely links us together. I don't know Maj well, but if he and I are out someplace and we're both armed, I'm sort of willing to bet that he and I would both be willing to sort of go down fighting, if I had to defend his life or he had to defend mine. So you can't help but sort of like bond with people like that when you share something so sort of fundamental to who you are.
I think one of the weakest arguments that I'm tired of hearing is the one where it's like, oh, look at Hollywood. They have so many guns in their movies, but they don't like guns in real life. It's like, I think that's a pretty weak argument because it's like, yeah, they also have dragons in their movies.
Right.
It's like one is a fantasy,
right.
and as opposed to a real thing.
I think one thing that the gun movement does a really, really terrible job of is highlighting the fact that the gun is always Plan Z. And even if you pull your gun, doesn't always mean that you're going to need to fire it. And in order to be a responsible gun owner and one that's there to defend life, you have to have that sort of self-control. You have to be knowledgeable and understand that, you don't shoot first and figure it out later. The gun is always the plan is always Plan Z. And that's something that I wish that like pro-gun people were better about explaining, because it's understandable if someone would be scared of guns if you think that if someone like cuts you off in traffic, you're going to like put a bullet in their brain. That's not the point. It's always, if all else fails, this is how I'm going to defend myself.
You actually testified at a hearing in Congress. What was that like? How did that come about?
Yeah, so that it was last month. I was honestly just at home doing my homework, and I got a call from a DC area code, and I didn't know the number, but I figured it was someone that probably just, I don't know, that I knew and got a new number or something. And so I answered it, and it was the chief counsel for the House Judiciary Committee, and he asked if I was who I was, and I said yes. And he sort of asked me some questions, asked if I had read H.R. 8, which is the Bipartisan Background Check Act of 2019. I said that I had and that I was against it, and I explained why. And he asked me if I would come to D.C. the next week and testify against it. And I said yes. And it was sort of surreal. But it was a cool experience, and I'm thankful that, I got to tell my story and show that, gun owners are responsible people.
What was the what was the law itself? What was in the bill? Are you familiar with the bill?
So HR 8 is the Bipartisan Background Check Act of 2019. Basically, what it would do is require a background check for any firearm transfer, with the exception of there's a few different exceptions. Like one of them's like a hunting exception, and then another one is like certain family relationships. I know biological children is one. I think spouses. I don't have the bill in front of me, so I'm blanking on what the exceptions are.
That must be the most awful way to find out you're adopted. It's like I wanted to give you this gun, but I don't want to break the law, and I'm sorry, son, but you're not. You have a different man's nose.
Right. HR 8 is kind of one of those things that they'll say these things like, well, it's only common sense that we have universal background checks. You already have universal background checks. Every time that you purchase a firearm lawfully, at a gun show, at a FFL, at a gun dealer, online, you are going to fill out a 4473. That is a federal form that runs a background check. So when they say these things, because they're trying to take advantage of the American public's unawareness of, because if everyone doesn't go through the process of purchasing a firearm, they don't know that you already have a 4473.
Yeah, I've never. I'm not a gun owner. I've never tried to purchase one. Have you ever tried to buy one?
So you go there, you fill this paperwork out, right? You pick the gun, you fill the paperwork out. That person, the dealer, the FFL, the Federal Firearms Licensee, federal license, right? You have a federal license to sell firearms, even if it's in whatever state. They call, you get a yes, no, or wait. We gotta wait on this person, depending upon the rules of your particular state. That's every time. That whole, oh, you could buy it at the gun show without, that's not true, right? So they'll say these things and be like, yeah, right after a tragedy. Oh yeah, we do need universal background checks. You already have them. What they're talking about is an encroachment and saying that if I go to, let's say me and Savannah are going somewhere together, right? And she's like, I'm like, yo, can I use that gun? I'm going over to such and such to hunt, or I'm going to such and such. There's a range in, I don't know, Colorado that I want to use. Can I take your gun? Sure. I go, I fill out the paperwork. I go to the airport, I declare that firearm, I'm able to go there because I'm using my friend Savannah's gun. She's got a real cool gun that I want to shoot at this new range that I'm going to. Under H.R. 8, if she does that, we're both felons now.
I wanted to talk about the bump stock. I want to know, what is a bump stock and what just happened? Because I have no clue.
It's a device. First, go back a bit. The ATF has already ruled that a bump stock does not make semi-automatic firearms fully automatic. I think the general public doesn't know the difference between semi and fully. Semi, one squeeze of the trigger, one round comes out. Fully, as long as I hold that trigger down, rounds keep coming out until I let it go. A bump stock is a device that you put onto the stock of the firearm, right? That as it uses the inertia of the shot to make the stock make that trigger so it speeds up the rate of fire. But it does not make it a fully automatic weapon, which is why when the ATF originally, came up with, okay, here's bump stocks, this is not an NFA item, meaning it is not an item that you have to go through special paperwork to get. You can buy them because they don't make guns machine guns. They do not. A simple way of understanding of if a gun's a machine gun or not, can you hold it in the air with one hand, squeeze the trigger, and the bullets keep coming out? You should not put your gun in the air and squeeze rounds out.
Are you at a wedding in Iran?
Right.
I guess basically.
Right. Is it okay then? It's not really about the bump stock per se. It's about how we can incrementally get Americans to release their freedoms. So for example, right after the tragedy happens, these things are presented, and it doesn't actually make anybody safer. It doesn't, you'll just add to more gun-free zones and more things that are restricted. The bump stock has been non-classified as an NFA item for 70 years. 70. When this happened, President Trump, who I completely disagree with in regards to his position on the Second Amendment since he's been in office for the 2 going on 3 years, this is an infringement. It's just what it is. It's telling Americans, like say, it's a piece of plastic, literally. It's saying, you, as of March the 26th, if you have not destroyed your bump stocks or have not given them back to the state, you are now a felon. You didn't beat anybody to death with the bump stock. You haven't used it in a massacre. There's rules against murder. You haven't done any of these things, but the mere possession of it, now we're going to give you this scarlet letter of an F. We're going to, if you get federal funding for college, you can't get it. If you want to vote, you can't vote anymore. If you want to exercise your ability to, purchase firearms lawfully, we'll tell you no. All because you had a piece of plastic.
Yeah. I ran a poll on the We the Internet TV Facebook page and also on Twitter, where it asked what administration banned bump stocks, and the two choices are the Trump administration or Donald Trump's. And people are so upset, especially like people who are big fans of Donald Trump, because a lot of them see like any form of criticism as an affront, like how you're going after me and my MAGA hat and all that. But it's like, you got to call a spade a spade. It's like, that he did something that if President Obama had done, people would be up in arms over it.
yeah, I rock with Trump on his finance thing. I rock with him on the money part of it, not the Second Amendment thing.
It's funny, the Second Amendment one, though, because I don't know who on the left is going to be like, oh, I kind of like Trump now. Like, they're not giving him any
They're not going to
points
give
for
him that
anyway.
parade.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a weird. There's a level of objectivity if you're trying to be a well-rounded citizen.
I've never really understood the Second Amendment, like the broader Second Amendment community's willingness to just jump on the Trump train, especially when he flat out said, like, I forgot the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, like, I take the guns first and worry about due process later. It's like, that's your guy. And, like, I understand that I'm a libertarian, so, like, I'm always going to be angry no matter who's in office. But, I mean, he flat out said, like, I'll worry about due process later. Like, that's not your guy. He's not on your team. And to insinuate that he is honestly just an insult to my intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to bang up my political connections. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, that statement, bro, I can't. Like, saying due process, that's the equivalent of somebody telling a journalist, yo, we'll just, take his pens now and we'll worry about his journalism later. Like, it's like...
Or more like take his tongue
right
now so he can't even...
Don Trump Jr. follows me on Twitter, on Instagram. We chop it up every so often. I'm not gonna not, because he might see the post, I'm not gonna say, nah, that's wrong. I'm sorry. Like, we have, our highest alignment is to the truth and protect, and using the democratic process to protect the republic.
Have you killed a lion with him yet?
Not yet. I'm working on it.
That'd be cool.
I want to kill a lion, like, with my bare hands, though.
Oh, with
That's the fair way to
Right.
do it.
Yeah. That's
Or
Die.
we both get a gun.
Right. One of the other.
What I'd like to talk to you guys about are active shooter drills that have been happening in schools, and a lot of them have been happening. I think there's something like over 90% of schools have at one point gone, under lockdown or something like that. Savannah, what do you think about that?
I mean, I definitely think that there is some benefit to that. I mean, obviously, I haven't been a part of one. But I know that schools are doing it. I know my own church's security team did like an active shooter drill. So I think you have to be prepared. And I wish that we didn't live in a world where those sort of things seem to be necessary. But I do think that we should be careful about the way we go about it, because we should do our best to not like traumatize children over something that, it's very unlikely to happen in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, I'm of the same thought process. I want us to be secure and not, like soft targets, but at the same time, I don't want, children's schools to turn into like military bases and compounds. My thought process would be, okay, allow teachers to carry if they're already licensed to carry, which a lot of them actually are. Why are we de-arming teachers or janitors or principals, like when they walk into the school? The thing that's in common with most shooters is like they plan. You know what I'm saying? So if you snatch away they planning because, okay, if they know that the one guard with the gun is at the front, they're gonna shoot him first or her first, right? So what if they don't know who the gun owner is? You can't plan the same way. Because in most instances, once the shooter is like engaged, they either stop and are taken into custody or they shoot themselves, right? So if there's gonna be any type of tragedy, let's hurry up and get the guy to shoot himself first. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like, okay, let's take away some of their ability to plan. And even if you have security spots or security sections throughout the school, make them in the closet, make them like not visible, And if somebody's taking a training, Ohio's doing a great thing. I think it's called Carrying Saves Lives or something like that. It's in Ohio. Faster Saves Lives. That's the name of the organization in Ohio. And they're like training teachers in that scenario to just not be such easy targets. I don't think that this makes sense to, one, it's a preventative measure. The guy that shot up that movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, he drove past 6 other movie theaters to get to the 7th one because he knew the 7th one was a gun-free zone. Like literally, like drive past the other 6. So some of it's preventative. It's like, yo.
It had nothing to do with what was playing at the
Right,
it
it wasn't the movie. It was like he wasn't just mad at Batman.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
They were all playing Batman.
Right.
It was a big hit that weekend.
Which one? So it's the same thing. It's like, it's like a bully. If you're the person that don't want to fight, the bully gonna pick on you.
They can smell it.
Yeah, and there's an article in the Atlantic from Erica Christakis, and she brings it up that, in some of these scenarios, they're urging students to deploy self-defense tools like throwing hockey pucks, rocks, flip-flops, cans of food, and that sort of thing. And I don't know, for me, it's sort of like, look, the bad guys got the guns. The bad guys are intent on hurting people. You're going through all, this process. The idea of, saying that, throwing a can of soup at a gunman, and I feel like you're not addressing the real problem, which is, being able to fight fire with fire,
right,
and having enough armed, trained people in there to actually help
Now
out.
imagining a guy like coming into a school with a bag of soups, just chucking them at everybody.
And then reverse. As he starts throwing the soups, the janitors or whoever's the armed security start throwing lead at him. Like to me, I don't know, man. I just feel like we're hamstringing Americans, their ability. I think that the people that do these things are cowards. Why do we think that the teachers that love our children, why do we think that will be any different? Is the teacher just gonna like get an attitude with Tommy and shoot Tommy? No, she's not. He's not. What they're gonna do is if someone comes in there to affect her flock, her children whose minds she's shaping or he's shaping, she's gonna defend them just like any other gun owner would be doing. I think that we created a victim mentality when we say, well, you can't, because what if the teachers get mad? And because we had this argument in urban schools, the white teacher's gonna get mad at Tariq and she's gonna shoot Tariq. Then why is Tariq going to that school if you really think that about your teacher?
Also, that got me thinking with the drills, because it makes me think of like fire drills in high school. It's all about the tone, because like I think about myself in high school, and like at that point, if there was a real fire, I wouldn't take it serious. Like, there was a fire drill, I'm getting high in the bathroom, and, like, nobody's noticing it. Right. Even now, as an adult, like, there's a fire drill, and for a minute, I'm like, should I bother going anywhere?
Right.
Or should I hide in the bathroom? I'm not getting high anymore there, but, should I actually take this seriously? I wonder how kids are responding to, like, gun drills now, if there's an actual event.
Concealed carry versus open carry. Which do you prefer and why? Maj.
I conceal. I don't even shoot on camera.
Are you not a good shot? Do you not want people to see?
Well, I'm not the best. You know what I'm saying? I get tight groups, and I'm gonna get you center mass if it get to it. You know what I'm saying?
That's why you gotta lose weight, so you're harder to hit.
Right, maneuver easier. I'm not a fan of of open carry. I'm a fan of it when there's plenty of cameras and it's shown that, hey, we're here for the open carry barbecue, and there's media, and we're doing a thing. I'm not a fan of open carry in spaces where I understand that people are vastly misinformed about firearms. They see a firearm and get nervous, unless it's tied to a uniform, right? So I don't want the lady at, Harris Teeter to be like, and get nervous because I'm open carrying. Plus, I believe in concealed is concealed. I want to get the drop on you. I don't want you to say, the bad guy just happens to come into the place and they see me carrying and go, gotta shoot him first. I want to get the drop on you. You know what I'm saying? I want the element of surprise. So I think that it makes sense in a political statement way. When it's, again, we all are bringing out our 1911s and we're showcasing our really old guns that are like way too heavy with not enough capacity. The 1911 dude's gonna beat me up for that. Nonetheless,
he's gonna be very slow at it though. He's old.
Right. I'll do it in those spaces, but as far as like you don't know, you might trigger something in someone that you could have shared information with. You don't know what their trauma is. So for me, it's like until we get to that place, I would rather just not. For me.
Cool. Cool. I'm just imagining that open carry barbecue, people actually like getting like a revolver and the meat.
Barbecue and the revolvers.
Splitting a hot dog by shooting it in the middle.
Savannah, what about you? Open carry or concealed?
I never open carry, ever. I only concealed carry. It's For me, I agree with Maj. A lot of people are scared of guns. For me, if I'm out somewhere and I can tell someone has a holster, I immediately feel safer. It just is what it is. But I know for a lot of people that it's the complete opposite. And, no one needs to know that I have a gun on my hip. The only time it would ever come out is if, God forbid, I was ever in a situation where I needed to defend my life or the life of the people around me. Um, and so for me, it's like they don't need to know that I'm caring. They don't need to know that I'm willing to end my life to defend theirs. They don't need to know that. So I just feel like it's better if it's just concealed and only comes out when needed.
The mosque shootings that happened in Christchurch, New Zealand, in particular after the shooting, you heard calls from people even in the United States about banning semi-automatic firearms. And one of the things that you kept hearing was, see, like, if they could do it, then why don't we just do it? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've had thoughts about what's happening in New Zealand.
I don't live in New Zealand, bro. I live in America. We have a long and storied tradition with firearms. Watch New Zealand in a little bit. New Zealand's already started going door to door, Gestapo style, taking people's firearms. A citizen of New Zealand's already been murdered by law enforcement. That's like the extreme risk protection orders and the red flag laws. Communism, China, Russia, red flag, cool, right? No, it's not cool. So no, I don't live in New Zealand. And watch, okay, if you take all of the firearms in New Zealand where we do not live, I can bet, watch the stabbings go up. Watch. Evil it just needs a tool, and just prevailing in a space where there's nobody to do good, to protect against that evil. So, they could try that. That's how they were in this situation in the first place, because New Zealand already had a bunch of restrictive gun laws. It's a human right. They're just not on board with it.
And apparently this guy went through, I guess, all the proper channels and got checked out and all that. So, Savannah, have you kept up on that story at all?
I have, and I think part of it too, and one thing that we don't discuss nearly as much as we need to, is if the shooter doesn't deserve to be named. He shouldn't get the notoriety. But if you read his manifesto, he literally explained why he chose the gun as the weapon. It was a political statement. It wasn't I don't obviously have the manifesto right in front of me, but I know Maj had shared it because that's where I read it, was through his social media. And he played us. It was such a well thought out choice to use a gun. And yet people are falling for it, and I don't understand. I just don't get it.
I got to say one thing, though. It seems like it's really, really hard to start a race war. Yeah. Right? People have tried. They've been trying, and it's like nobody's coming around. Like, I'm not saying you need to be more persuasive, or maybe you need somebody with a better personality or something like that. But
Manson came close.
I guess so. Yeah, he had a whole family. Yeah. He got how many women to shave their heads?
Yeah, that's hard to do. Women are serious about their hair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, I don't know, man. Like, we have a system of standards, and we've been eroding it. And I just want people to pay attention to that historical context. Every time that it's happened, citizens are de-armed, massive murders right after. That's not me saying it. That's like world history. You know what I mean? So I don't live. And first and foremost, shouts to the Abdul Aziz, the 38-year-old male that stopped that shooter. He picked up. I don't even know how he picked up an ATM. Picked up an ATM. He picked up one of the shooter's guns, threw it at him, javelin style. Wow. Shouts to him for having the heart.
Seriously.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like, come on, man. Like, that's not our fate. If they allow their government to put them in that space, how does that bode well for us? Mm-hmm. We don't live in New Zealand. Yeah,
and it was interesting watching, the arguments where people were saying, like, oh, they did it, why don't we do it here? And it's like, have you been in America? Like we are constantly having arguments over the Second Amendment. Right. We are constantly doing that. And then also in New Zealand, they made it, apparently it's illegal to distribute or possess that manifesto.
Right.
So it's sort of, that's a thing too. Like when you don't have a Second Amendment and you don't have a First Amendment, that kind of stuff, can happen.
You have slavery. You don't have the ability to say what you want. You don't have the ability to defend what you just said. You're a slave. I'm sorry. I'd rather die on my, feet than live on my knees. There's never gonna be a time where like that's popping. And I believe that most Americans feel the same way. Even if you're not a gun guy, a gun girl, you don't want somebody telling you what, come on, man. You know how you gonna tell women that they can't express themselves? Have you tried? Like, have you seen being married?
I've tried to shut my wife up, and it don't work. What are some things that you think people should know about, gun rights and African American history?
So first, gun control in America is actually older than America. Around like the Louisiana Purchase, around that time, there were black codes where it was if a Negro or a Native American had something that even appeared like it was a weapon or firearm, you were within your rights to kill that person. Right? And then fast forward a bit to after emancipation, which just means transfer of ownership. It does not mean liberation. Whole nother topic. But after that, right, in Virginia, you had rules saying, all of America's constitutional carry except for the black people. So the origin of, so when we're saying like, our shirts, all gun control is racist, that's not like a cute, catchy slogan or phrase. It's actually historical. The origin of gun control in its inception, expansion, and stronghold is racist. Whether it's African American people, whether it's Native Americans to this land, Wounded Knee, first federal gun grab, the massacre at Wounded Knee. When Italian people were coming over here in droves, they used the St. Valentine's Day massacre to get the Gun Control Act popped off. These crazy Italians, you know what I mean? When the Irish people were fighting, we need all of these rules. So every bit of gun control, major portions of gun control in American history have been tied to racism. It's just what it is. Because the Founding Fathers, even with their contradictions, because they wrote something in the Bill of Rights saying these are enumerated rights that are not granted by government, just in case we got stupid 200 years later. Go figure, right? These are things that are not given by government. Anybody that attempts to, violate this list of rules is, not moving in a constitutional manner. But they knew that, and that's why, you see cases like, Heller versus D.C., McDonald versus Chicago, all of these different cases that highlight, the contradiction, and then the courts fix it. That is the history of gun control in America. It has never made anybody safer. It does not work. If we, again, fast forward to 1991, then fast forward the data till now, 90% of those mass shootings are in gun-free zones. Gun control is actually a bigger stain. It's in alignment with the stain of slavery. Think about that. Like, gun control is in alignment with the stain on our flag of slavery. It's the thing that allowed slavery to continue to prevail. The people that fought against that, now we champion them, those women and men as champions. But at the time, they was risking their life to defend the particular freedoms. You talk about Harriet Tubman, who was strapped, who was a woman. Why she's not the Hall of Fame checklist of what every gun organization should be highlighting is beyond me. So when you have certain people from my demographic, it's like, America's still racist. It's like, okay, well, we just got Obama. White. Oh, Obama,
half
white. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, you understand why people are presenting these arguments, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're backing up, and again, it's not me just saying it. It's like history. Like, you could read the book.
I remember. Well, I made a video for WTI. I have a series called Lou's Safe Place, which is basically just me talking to camera about whatever idea I have on my mind. And I was responding to something that I often hear from people who are gun control people, where they'll often bring up the racist roots of gun control and say, as almost a way where it's like, oh, do you like guns? Well, then what do what about this racist thing that happened in the past? And the one specific example that I use that they'll bring up is the Black Panthers. Yeah. And in California, they were open carrying. They were keeping an eye on their neighborhood, especially how police were treating people, and they were patrolling their neighborhoods. I guess they went to the Capitol.
Yep.
Strapped, with shotguns and all that, and then Ronald Reagan and
Mulford Act.
yeah, the Mulford Act signed it, where open carry was made illegal.
That's part of the reason why Cali's in the weird state it's in now. That was like the beginning of the slippery slope.
Mhm.
The NRA backed that. And there's other things that the NRA supported that was very pro-gun, but that was not. It's just what it is, and it's like, if you want more of California, like they trying to turn Texas into like Austin. You know what I'm saying? If you want more of upstate New York, you good. The boroughs, you not.
Right.
It is control. It's not like a slick conspiracy theorist saying, look at the data, look at the numbers, look at the lives saved. It's racist. It's about control. The founding fathers, with their contradictions, like damn near predicted it. And was like, yo, power's gonna, white dudes, y'all should be joining in this fight as well, more so than just the gun nuts. Because, tyranny is affecting white males by police shootings more than anybody else.
Yeah, it's something we were talking about before. I don't think a lot of people know that. I think more white men were killed by cops.
Yep.
I don't know if it was last year or...
Like as a percentage of the population?
Numbers, number-wise. So
Right.
percentage-wise, it's lower because there are more white men
Right.
here, but like in raw numbers. And I forget what it was. I don't know if it was like the Washington Post from a couple of years back. They have the list of, it was like 50 white men were killed, or 50 unarmed white men were killed, and then 48 or 49 unarmed people of color.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, they're putting,
They
everybody...
gotta juke the stats.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, man, like, listen, man, you ain't got, nobody that's watching this has to believe me or Savannah. They don't have to. What you can do is go look at the research, look at the data, read the books, and just be open-minded to it. More firearms by trained and safe, responsible Americans not only is a check on tyranny, because we looking real tyrannical right now. Why are they not telling you that 60% of gun-related deaths are suicides? Why 60%? That's a big chunk. Why aren't they saying that? Because they want you to think it's about the tool, because that's the only way that you can defend yourself from a tyrannical government. It's the same play that Hitler made. My Jewish homies get it.
You get it?
I get it.
Really want to thank Maj Toure from Black Guns Matter for joining us. Maj, where can we check out your stuff?
We all over social media, at Maj Toure on Twitter, official Black Guns Matter _ Maj Toure on Facebook. If anybody has learned anything from this, conversation today, support the work. Our classes are free, but they're crowdsourced. So if anybody wants to donate, GoFundMe.com / Black Guns Matter. And just be informed. I'm not telling anybody that they have to have a firearm, but I am telling you that you're being lied to about firearms. So, just research it and fact check, like Savannah was saying, fact check every single thing that I'm saying.
Cool. And I want to thank Savannah Lindquist as well. Savannah, where can we check out your stuff?
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have a website set up or anything, but you can find me on social media on Twitter at Savannah May Says.
Awesome.
Wait, I'm about to follow you right now.
Yeah. There we go. And Boris Khaykin.
Say at the Boris K on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You're not going to find anything about guns, but I swear you'll find a lot of funny stuff.
Yeah. And I'm Lou Perez. This is We the Internet TV. Please subscribe and check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Thank you guys so much.